Welcome to the first episode of Construction Tech Talk, the podcast that is set to revolutionize the way we think about construction and technology. I am Brittney Peret, your host for this special launch episode. Today is not just about insightful conversations, it's about starting a journey. We are here to bring you the latest trends, insights, and innovations at the intersection of construction and technology. Our mission? To empower, educate, and inspire professionals across the construction industry. In today's episode, we'll be talking with Nick Peret, the force behind BetterBoss and a visionary in construction technology. We'll dive deep into his journey, the transformative role of BetterBoss brands, and how this podcast aims to be a catalyst for the change in the industry. Let's embark on this new and exciting chapter together.
Oh, and I couldn't be more excited to start this chapter. Whether you heard Brittney Peret, Nick Peret, this is my new wife. We just got married a few months ago, and starting this podcast, I couldn't think of anybody better to help host the first episode and really launch and tell the story about what we're doing here with Construction Tech Talk. So for those who don't know, I was in the roofing space for about 6 years, and we had a podcast that lasted a very long time and is still going with my old co-host, Randy Brothers. Shout out to one of my mentors out there. And we were able to change a lot of people's lives. We had people who quit their jobs and started businesses and were doing millions of dollars in revenue. We had people who were able to scale their business, train their people better. And so now we're hoping to do that exact same thing in a more broader spectrum. We're looking at the whole construction and trade space, right? And so we're super excited about it. So thanks for joining us in episode 1. And Brittney, thank you so much for being part of it.
Woohoo, let's go.
Absolutely.
Before we start our conversation with Nick, I want to share a little bit about what Construction Tech Talk aims to achieve. This podcast is a platform for thought leaders, innovators, and experts in construction and technology. Our goal is to uncover new ideas, share groundbreaking solutions, and foster a community of forward thinkers. We believe that by bringing these conversations to you, we can ignite a wave of innovation and progress in the construction industry. Construction Tech Talk is more than just a podcast. It's a movement towards a more efficient future in construction.
Let's go. Future is now. Future is now.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about your journey to BetterBoss.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with us your journey and how it led you to becoming a fractional CTO at BetterBoss?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in, the Midwest, blue collar family. So Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I grew up in the trades. I think about my summers in high school when I'm helping remodel our house or a rental property with my dad, doing insulation, siding, you gotta name it. I was doing it, right? I remember spraying the insulation into an attic of one of our rental properties. I got the mask on. It's still all going up my nose. And that's where I learned character and hard work, right? And I really did. And I appreciate that till this day. But I grew up in the trades, and my aunt or my uncle, my cousins were plumbers. You kind of name it. We had every box checked. And so I liked the people. I knew how to talk to the people, right? And so I ended up actually working for Milwaukee Tool right out of college.
Oh, nice.
And I was doing sales. Like, you don't know.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, right. Never heard that one. But yeah, so I worked for Milwaukee Tool. So once again, I was selling to contractors, right? So hey, still out there, anybody? I want to know what tools you guys are using. Milwaukee Tool all day. I still drink the Kool-Aid. Best tools out there, right? But after that, great company. They just hit 100 years. So proud of everybody there. They're growing like crazy. But after that, I decided I wanted to do something else. Right? I was kind of moving around. I wanted to pick a spot. So I picked Denver, Colorado. And that's really when I got into software. So I started slanging software, smiling it down, $150 a day, right? With some of my best friends that I'm still friends with now. But once again, a huge percentage of our clientele were, small businesses and a lot of people that were in the trades. So, if I'm calling 150 times every single day for work, and let's just say a third of our clientele was contractors, I'm talking to 50 different contractors every single day. Right. And for me, I was selling the software, but I wanted to hear their story. I wanted to know everything, every kind of problem they're having and whatnot. And I really enjoyed that, just the business strategy of that. And once I left that and finally started my first company, I think I was 25 years old, and I started my first company, and we focused on the trades. We knew there was problems that needed to be solved there. with that company, we focused on roofing specifically. And what we did is we generated leads, right? Commercial roofing leads, right? So we do the outreach and the prospecting on their behalf. But, you know, everywhere I was, it didn't matter if it was at that company generating leads where I noticed they had an issue managing those leads, or if when I was at the software company and I noticed that they would never set up the software, I realized that there was a big issue with being able to maximize and leverage technology for these construction companies. It's just a major issue. You know, construction companies have so much opportunity. They grow, they get more revenue, they get more sales, right? They're doing crazy jobs. But what happens is when you start to scale, you know, the running and gunning that you're doing in the beginning doesn't work anymore. It gets to the point where you have to build out these systems and processes. And nowadays, to be able to do that, you need technology properly implemented into your company, right? Whether it's a CRM, you know, proposal tools, whatever it might be, right? Your financial systems, all that kind of stuff, you really need to have those dialed in, right? Because when you're talking about the biggest issues for these contractors and their clients, it's usually communication and organization, right? And technology can fix all those things. And what happens is when you're able to fix those problems, you become less reactive with your company. You're more proactive. You can make strategic decisions, right? And everything's just easier. Because what happens is you have this fun part in the startup phase, but once you start to outgrow that and that stuff doesn't work, like what you used to do is like it's not fun anymore. Yeah. Because everything is hard, right? And there's all these issues. And for me, I'm like, man, if you think about it, if you take a construction company and you're able to give the same exact client experience, right, to these people as like a high level corporation, you're going to change the game, and it's going to give you a competitive advantage. And when you want to win, especially in the future, right, which is now when you're looking at all these crazy AI tools and all this stuff that's going on, be that futuristic, forward-thinking construction company, right? And it's going to change the game. So that's what I do is I focus on helping them with those areas of their business.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And as a follow-up question, as a fractional CTO, what unique skills do you bring to your clients in the construction industry?
So for me, it's interesting. I always, so with the last company, anything else I've been involved when it comes to software and technology, I always paid somebody to basically implement the product, right? Or customize it to our business and all this kind of stuff. And for me, I never got the exact results that I really wanted, because what I think the misconnect is a lot of these people who are in technology, right? Maybe software developers, you know, people who know coding, all this kind of, you know, great skill sets, is I think they think that way more, right? Where they don't really think about maybe business processes, right? Or optimizing the way that your business is run. So for me, you know, I have experience where, you know, like I said, I've been an entrepreneur for the last 7 years, where I have a business mind and I think about what's the most efficient way that this can get done. And now what I'm able to do, right, is because I've spent now a year and a half where all I've done is studied, learned all the latest and greatest technology when you're looking at CRMs, you know, AI and all these great tools that you can now utilize. But now I take that and I combine it with my business strategy thinking, right? Where now it's like, hey, we can take your vision, right? And we can really collaborate on the business strategy kind of thing, where it's like, okay, where are we? What problems do we need to fix? Where do we want to go? How are we going to make this happen? And why do we want to go there? Right? And making sure we have our eyes focused on a target that's really clear and that we're going to hit together. And then it's like, all right, now I'm going to support that strategy with all this technology that I can now provide you guys with, right?
Especially because one person's needs are not going to be like the others.
No, 100%, right?
So that's like the benefit of going through you for this.
Yeah, 100%. And I just think some people that, you know, all they do is work on the computer, right? Which is a lot of people that do implementations and stuff, is they might be more tech focused, right? Where I'm going to have that tech side, but I'm also going to have that business focus with you guys.
Amazing. How is BetterBoss transforming traditional construction management practices with technology?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, right? I think a big theme with this podcast is going to be where, hey, the traditions of the trade meet technology and innovation. So for me, when I go in and I meet with a company or meet with a client, what I'm trying to do is really understand what processes you guys already have in place. And what I usually find out is people have pretty solid processes. But what happens is this person has their one really solid process. This person has their really solid process. This person has their really solid process, right? And they have all this knowledge in construction, right? Maybe, hey, this woman has been in accounting for construction company for 20 years, right? Or maybe this person has been in estimating and sales or whatever it might be in their trade for 2 decades or 3 decades. You know, they have so much experience. So what I want to do is, hey, a lot of these people, they have the experience, they have some pretty good processes, right? And they have all this great information. But what happens is we need to be able to put that together, right? Where it's like, hey, you're not just using this spreadsheet, this person's using this spreadsheet, this person's doing this. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this great technology where you can kind of just streamline everything together. So, you know, we'll take what people already built out and their experience and their brain. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that, we're going to put it all together in a streamlined system that can kind of just change the game for you guys, where you're using technology to support that tradition and that knowledge that you guys already have, to build something that can make a huge difference in your company, make everybody's life easier, right? And take you where you want to go and help you relax a little bit so you don't have to be as reactive as an owner. Because I know for me, it can get stressful, especially as you're scaling. But if you're able to kind of streamline that stuff out, good things are going to happen. And you're going to be able to relax a little bit.
And focus that effort elsewhere,
making business decisions, right? And moving the needle.
Instead of just doing the routine steps every day.
100%.
That are just taking up time.
Yeah, putting out the problems that we could just solve where you don't have to have them all the time.
Yeah. Can you discuss how integrating technology is changing the construction industry?
So for me, I think it's, hey, you change or bad things are going to happen. I just don't think it's really an option. And I get
frustrated. Stay up with the times.
Stay up with the times, yeah. Because I get frustrated when, you meet a lot of people. We were talking about tradition. And I think tradition is great, but I think that staying stagnant is never a good idea.
Sure.
Because other companies are utilizing these different tools, and their clients are having a better experience. They're having a better idea of like where the project's at and all these different indicators, right? And everything's just more dialed in. I just don't know how you can really compete with that, right? So it's like, for me, it's just like, you have to do it, right? And so I know it might not be fun, and maybe you've had bad experiences or whatever it might be, but for me, it's like, please just leverage it, utilize it, right? It's almost like one of those things where you look at the people who in the trade space that really focus on training and those that don't, right? The people who focus on training, you can see their people grow, evolve, everything like that. Same thing, if you invest back in your company with stuff like technology, you're going to grow, evolve, right? And it's going to make it an attractive place for people to work. That's another thing. If you want to attract very intelligent young people into the trades, which I know is a challenge, they don't want to work at a company that seems like it's not with the times. Think about these kids, we're growing up on these iPads and stuff like that, right? So we expect a certain level of professionalism when it comes to these technology platforms and how we go about our day to day. And, you look at what they're using in college and all this kind of stuff. So for me, it's like you want to attract these good people. You want to be able to compete at a client experience level, all this kind of stuff. You got to jump aboard. You have to do it.
And change is hard.
Change is awful.
And a lot of people, we've talked to a few where they're just like anti-change, it's not happening. And those are the 100%. Ones that probably need it the most.
100%. But what's funny is they say change is stress.
Yeah.
So anytime you have change in your life, whether it is, moving or if it is starting a new job, whatever it might be, there's stress involved, right? It shakes up your day to day. And so what I'm doing when I'm coming to these companies and I'm changing the way that they operate is I'm basically stressing everybody out. Because they could be doing this for the last 10 years the exact same way, and I'm saying, hey, this is going to change, right? But for me, it's once you can get everybody aboard, and I think that's a big topic of discussion too, is adoption, right? Because if you can't get adoption, just like I was talking about when I was selling software, people never implemented it. So that's called basically change failure, right? Where you were able to not complete the adoption for your organization. And at that point, that's them not even trying to implement it. But if you implement it wrong, or you have snags, or it makes it like tougher for your employees in any kind of way, or do a workaround, it's not a good thing. But ideally, you want to be able to have it where it's skipping steps or automating things for them. So things that they used to maybe have to to enter twice in 2 different platforms, or things that they had to do themselves is automatically calculated and done. And then they're all about it, right? And once they can kind of see that, I think that's where you see the adoption take off.
And that leads me to my next question. I think, okay, I'm a business owner within the construction industry. How does BetterBoss enhance project management and the operational side of things?
Yeah, so we've been playing around with a few different tools. Ideally, it's one of those things where if you can have as many tools integrated into one platform where everybody uses the exact same thing, the better, right? And so for me, it's really going and analyzing where you're currently at. Do you have any kind of technology, right? And do you want to be able to integrate that into certain tools? It really depends on where you're at. Most people will usually have QuickBooks for their financials. And then from there, maybe a kind of a simplistic CRM, whatever it might be. But it's really about how advanced you want to go. But ideally, it's one of those situations where, hey, if you get a lead that comes in, that's automatically goes directly into your CRM system or however you're managing these projects, right? It's going to have all our contact information. If it's an RFP, whatever it might be, automatically pushed to the system, right? And if you can get it where, hey, it's now going to have that lead automatically create some kind of budget where it has, line items and stuff like that, where you can pick out of a template to automatically turn that into an estimate or proposal, right? And at that point, you want all those financials to be able to track in one spot where you're not having to hop around. So ideally, you're going to have that in some kind of budget or spreadsheet where you're able to see that. And as you go about it, when you send the proposal, it'll show how much you've invoiced. You can show all your costs. So if people are clocking in, you kind of name it. All that financial information is all in one spot. So that way, not only are you going to be able to get like a bird eye view, your dashboard, where you're able to see your financials, but you're also going to be able to see per job, right, or per customer, however you want to do it, all the numbers that you want to see. And what's so great is the more numbers you have, you're able to make strategic decisions. Otherwise, you're making all your decisions based off of assumptions. That's what a lot of people do. I think this person's underperforming. I think we're not doing very good in this division of our company. But you have no idea, right? When you have like very dialed in financials, what you're able to do is you're saying, hey, this division's not hitting, maybe this lead source isn't really cutting it. You can see here we're only converting this many leads. Hey, you can see this customer for us is doing this much revenue. Hey, maybe we can increase our business development dollars here. You can also make these decisions in invoicing, making sure you don't miss an invoice. I've had people tell me that they miss invoices and, say, hey, we thought we billed them, but we didn't. Oh, that's right. So that's the core. Numbers are the core. Numbers don't lie, and it gives you the data that you need. That is the most important thing for you to be able to level up the business.
Consistency.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Right.
Well, yeah, and I guess that, again, leads me to my next question of what are some of the common, I know you mentioned already a few, but the common challenges you've seen in construction, and how does BetterBoss address those? So numbers, for sure, consistency on those.
Reporting, right, having data and understanding that for sure.
Not missing items or invoices.
Yep, 100%. And then I think internal and external communication. So when I say internal, that's me inside the company. And then external is going to be to your customers, maybe vendors and stuff like that. And so that's why I think, we've looked at a couple of tools. I'll say one, the Job Thread has been a really good tool for sure that I've researched. Kind of a diamond in the rough. We're looking at a lower price point, but you're also getting all of the features. And I think customization. So a big thing when you're looking at these tools is you want tools that are very, very customizable, right? Have open API, which basically means I can take this tool and I can connect to this tool, boom. And now when one data is pushed into this, it's automatically going to go into the next one, right? So what that does is it removes duplicate entry, because if you have areas where your accountant or your estimator or whoever it is has to punch it in this system and then basically copy paste, put it in another one, it doesn't happen. Yeah. So what happens now, your data is all jacked up, because let's just say they do it 85% of the time. That's great. But then let's say this person does it 85% of the time, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter, right? Sure. And then I also think having like one internal place for communication. So like, for example, with that tool I said, they have basically a board that shows all activity on every single job. But the customer, through their customer portal, they can chat on it, say, hey, I got the invoice, I'll pay it, or they can pay their invoice from their portal. But then your team can also send messages in there. When with my last company, we utilized Slack. I really like Slack for internal teams, because then you could do these different channels where it's like, hey, marketing, sales, blah, blah, blah. And then you just have those people in those different chats. And it was just way more efficient than email. I don't think email is ever the way to do it, honestly, in my perspective. I really do like these kind of chat systems. And at first I was a little worried about people, abusing it or hitting you up too late. Never had any issues with that. So I think that's good. And then if your customers can have some kind of portal, right? So they get it, they can send messages, they can see their invoices, they can see their saved contracts, all that kind of stuff in that customer portal. Now you're changing the game a little bit, because what happens when people get mad is when they don't have a full understanding of your perspective of what's going on. So if they don't hear from you and you're behind on the project, now they're getting mad, right? But the more information that you can kind of give them and the better you can communicate to them, they're a little bit more forgiving.
Sure. And I guess we talked about the benefits from, the company owner's side. What about the client side? So I'm a client. I've hired on this construction company to work on my project. How would I benefit as a client with this system?
Yeah, so for them, what does the customer get most mad about? You didn't show up, or the project's behind, or they don't know what's misquoted. They don't know what's going on. So, when you have tools that have these kind of customer portals where you're sending them any kind of documents, you can communicate with them, you can upload photos, you can do all that kind of stuff, you're creating transparency. So basically what happens is, because either they've had bad experience with contractors, right? It's just the way it is. I had a marketing company, it was the same thing. They didn't have good people didn't have a good experience with marketing companies. So you're already starting with your back against the wall. Right. But when you're able to create more transparency, and the more you're able to give them to actually kind of see, to create clarity for them, what it does is it lowers their wall or their worries, and however you want to say it, right? Their guard, I guess, lowers their guard down a little bit. And you're able to create that better relationship. So that if you want to say anything, give them quick updates, just chat them in the portal, right? And it's just right on your job. Right? There's just so many ways where you can kind of create that. So definitely that for sure. Amazing. Oh, also too, I want to say is making sure you're recording any kind of communication. So you can do different SMS, you can do phone calls, you can do emails, depending on how deep you want to go. Where if you have a client profile in your systems, where all that information is going to sync directly into that profile. So let's say Billy wants to give Deborah a phone call, and he wants to go kind of see, and he sees that a few other people sent an email, text, blah, 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 and it wrote some notes about her, what she likes, what she's looking for, blah, blah, blah. Now they have all that information, right? So now you have a documentation where that it's not just a little profile on your CRM, but it's basically a customer that's growing and growing and growing, and you're learning more and more about them to better nurture that customer.
As a client, am I able to see through the services that you guys offer, am I able to see the progress of the project?
Yes.
So I'm not bugging you every week to say, where are we? Why haven't we done this? 100%. Am I able to go in and log in and just be able to see where the progress is?
So I think our setup's a little bit unique. So we have a membership setup. So, a lot of people with these implementations and stuff like that of different software, they do basically a project scope, almost like you're doing like a website where it's like, hey, you pay X months of thousands of dollars and we'll set this up for you, blah, blah, blah. We take a little bit of a different approach, just because what I noticed is I can't really figure out everything about your company, in honesty, and then 1 or 2 sales calls or discovery calls or however you want to call them, that's an hour long. Because the thing is usually what happens is, the owner thinks a couple of things, but really the owner has been hands off in a few of those areas for a little bit. And now that, really the accountant knows this area better, this salesperson knows this better, right? And so what it does, it really does take a time, right? And for me, it can be up to 2 months where I'm literally just doing discovery with your team, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out your processes, but I'm also trying to figure out where they're broken.
Trying to put all the pieces together. Yeah,
we can fix those little pieces that are kind of broken and whatnot, and make sure that we can fix those before moving forward and implementing, right? So it's like, hey, before we take these processes and implement into the system, are these the perfect processes? Chances are probably not, right? It's just the way it is. So it's like, this is a great time for us to perfect that stuff before just throwing that all into the system and we go back. So what I do is it's one task at a time, basically. So I build out kind of a project plan, that's going to kind of fit what we're trying to do. But what I also do is it's one task at a time, right? We're going to knock out one thing at a time together. But what happens is, I have that project plan, but then we find out the QuickBooks isn't completely set up, right? Maybe the way they have their line items or that their cost codes or blah, 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 whatever it might be, isn't completely set up right. So what I want to do is I want to fix some of that stuff. So I want to go deep into that stuff, fix that stuff, and it's obviously going to add on project time. So that's why I just do it one task at a time. So it's like, hey, if you guys wanted to finish the project, and now it's like, let's focus on automations or integrating lead sources, or we want to, add an estimating tool that sends all the information directly into our, whatever it might be, then we can tackle that. Because we have to realize is, unfortunately, the way that technology is changing so quickly right now, like, it is rapid. It's absurd, right? You do one thing this way, and all of a sudden 6 months later, you could do it 20% faster with this, this new way. So you have to stay on top of that stuff, and that's how you keep that competitive advantage. So I try to be in that back pocket for people where, hey, I'm your fractional CTO, right? So I'm able to handle everything technology and then the strategy that goes with that technology. So for me, I'm like, hey, let's evolve together. Let's crush this. Let's take it to the next level. Let's go where we want to go and be on your sideline, right? And what's nice about being where the consultant too is then, you got to think you're basically a quarterback, right? And you're getting blitzed by massive 350-pound linemen, and you're making decisions, you're juking, you're trying to make plays, right? I'm sitting on the sideline a little bit, right? And I'm able to kind of watch the game from the sideline and maybe give you a different perspective.
Cool. Amazing. Yeah. Construction tech talk. We're talking tech. Based on your experience, what future trends do you see in construction technology? And that's hard to predict too, but what do you think?
I'm excited to see where artificial intelligence goes. Obviously, I mean, you know me, how much do I geek out on AI?
Yeah.
I mean, think about what I planned.
He loses me sometimes. 5 minutes in, I'm just like,
I just planned our honeymoon, right? I got, to schedule out the basically the route, so it was the most efficient route. I got to get our flights, our accommodations, build us a cost analysis, all this kind of stuff, give us the booking links for the exact dates for everything we want, and it was, boom, done for us, right? So everything that I'm trying to do, I'm trying to figure out a way where I can use artificial intelligence. Absolutely.
Love it.
100%. So I'm excited to see where that goes in the construction space. Like, I was thinking, one idea that I kind of do is, I know that when construction companies are growing and they're hiring all these people, training can always be an issue, and so training has always been an area I've always kind of wanted to like dip my hands in a little bit, where it's like, how can I make sure that these people are getting trained and that they're staying, and you can get good employees that are, they can get all the answers without having to hit you up all the time. And there's a lot of great training tools, videos, all this kind of stuff, but I wanted to more personalized. So I've been trying to figure out a way where it's basically, you can build your own chat bot, right? Your chat GPT bot. I want to do it where it's like, okay, so let's take all these documents, all these procedures, all these training videos, everything, literally every SOP, everything, role, responsibility, how to log into stuff, you freaking name it, any documentation you can have. Think about all your shared files. I want to take all of that, and I want to be able to put that in a bot where it learns all that stuff.
Becomes a handbook on.
Exactly. So now all of a sudden you have like your own personalized trainer where, okay, so it's attached to their browser or whatever, however you set it up. And the person is like, oh, I got this email, I don't know what to say to this customer, I don't know how to log into this system. Instead of having to hit you up or hit up the manager, they just type in the bot, and then it literally just gives them links, it gives them everything they need to do it. That would be cool. Yeah. I like that.
I agree. What advice would you give construction companies that are looking to embrace technology advancements?
So I think be willing, be open, right? And don't hire Aunt Sally to do it. I know what happens is usually someone who might be in the company, or you have a family member that works for you, and hey, we're going to just have them set it up. You have to realize that the time commitment that it's going to be and the skill set that it takes to really build it out to the custom matter that you need to get the most success with it. So if you're going to do it, you go all in and make sure that you do it right for sure, and be willing to continually evolve it and be focused on adoption, right? Really get your team excited about it and tell them that you're investing really heavily into them because you want them to be successful, make it about them and the opportunities you think it can be for them to save time and be more efficient and be more successful in their roles and what that could do for their career. Really focus on that, I would say, for sure. But if you're going to do it right. But if you're going to do it where, hey, I know I need to buy these tools, don't just go buy the tools and just let them sit there, or maybe don't really have it fully set up, because that's how you lose people, and that's how you get them to not buy in, and that's how you really just start to make another frustration and another problem that you're going to have to try to figure out how to solve. And it's just like half done, it's half baked, and that's when you really start to have the issues. And so don't do that way. just do it the right way. Just do it the right way.
Well, and with Better Boss, you are not only going to help them pick out the best software, technology, all of the above, but you're going to help implement it, which they would normally have to hire 2 parties to do that.
Train them, everything like that.
Yeah,
like
multiple parties to do that with you, or one-stop shop.
The full package. And you have to remember too, like, I love the business strategy talk side of it too, right? So it's like you kind of get both sides when you're looking at Better Boss, where it's like, hey, we're going to make sure that you're not going to have to do anything when it comes to picking out the technology, getting it implemented, training your team. But I also want to get in the game a little bit, where it's like, hey, let's talk some business strategy. Let's talk about what we're working on, what are we trying to achieve together, and stuff like that. And because I love that stuff, that kind of gives me the energy. So I always look forward to those conversations too.
Sure, love it. Okay, so some personal motivations. What motivates you as a CTO in the construction industry, and what future goals do you have for Better Boss brands?
I think it's always creating opportunity for other people. I know it sounds cheesy, and I think I had mentors that kind of said that to me too, and I thought it was the cheesiest thing ever, honestly. But it really started to make sense for me. Like I was telling you the story where we had the other podcast, and one of the guys won the tickets, and he went to it. He was selling roofs at the time. He quit his job because he was so pumped up after the conference. And he went and started his own company. He had $1 million his first year, $3 million the second year. And it was all because of us literally just putting this content out there. And that's how we really build these relationships. And, that kind of stuff always comes back to you. And, you're able to succeed from that too. But that's what it's all about, right? Where you don't really just put on a show to try to sell more widgets or whatever it might be. But when you really focus on an environment and a platform that can make a big impact, it always comes back to you, right? Because then you become a person of value for sure. And value and problem solving always gets paid. So I know you always get taken care of for sure. But it's definitely that, right? And taking these companies that could be, operating a completely different way, and when you're able to implement these tools, it changes them, and it solves a lot of the problems and stresses that they had. Because as a business owner, right? I've been a business owner for 7 years now. There is a lot of stresses and a lot of fires and a lot of problems. And if you're able to solve a good amount of those for those people, you can relate to it.
Yeah. Last question of the podcast.
Ooh, last question. Okay. Thank you very much, by the way. It's been an honor.
Everyone wants to know, especially when you're starting a new company, how'd you come up with the name?
So that was not on the script. That was not on the script. Okay, so basically, when I left my last company, you kind of have a little bit of an identity crisis, right? So you're like, what am I going to do next, right? It's like, oh, this is all I know. I'm sure for anybody out there who started a second company, the feeling, right? And so I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, but I need to get a tax ID number. I need to become official. I need to get a credit card. I need to get a bank account, all this kind of stuff. So it's like, I need the name. And at this point, I didn't really even know completely what
you were going to do
what I was
at
going to
all.
do. I knew I was going to be in some kind of tech side of things, but I didn't really know what else. And so we have our dog, Mr. Boss. We got BO $2 signs. And I looked down at him. He's what, 6 pounds?
5
pounds. So I looked down at Boss, Mr. Boss. I was like, oh, Boss. I like Boss brands.
Yeah.
And then Boss brands was taken. And I was like, all right, what's like a good adjective, right? Better.
Yeah.
Better Boss. We got Better Boss. We got Mr. Boss. Shout out to you, man. We'll throw up a gift or something like that. We'll get you going.
So really, I named the company because I had Boss 5 years ago.
So
7 years ago.
If
now.
anybody is married out there, you already know the answer to this question. Yes, honey.
It is. I named Boss.
Yeah, yes, honey. And you zip it.
You are welcome, because it's a fire name for a company.
And you zip it. Yes, honey. It is a great name.
It is a great name, so I will take full credit for that.
I agree.
You are welcome. Never knew when I was naming my dog 7 years ago, Boss, that it'd come full circle.
Yeah, it sure did. Nice job, Britt.
Well, amazing. As we wrap up the first episode of Construction Tech Talk, I wanted to thank Nick for sharing his incredible insights and visions. The podcast is just the beginning. We're here to explore, challenge, and inspire. Stay with us on this journey as we dive deeper into the world where construction meets technology. For more about Better Boss and to be a part of this exciting conversation, visit our website, betterboss.io. We are just getting started, and there's so much more to come. I'm Brittney Peret, and I will be handling the hosting duties today for Nick, but then hand it over to him next week. Until then, keep pushing the boundaries and building a smarter, more connected construction world. Signing off here from Construction Tech Talk.
Let's do it. Peace.